Okay, today we're going to talk about the work of another famous name in Western philosophy, and it's Friedrich Nietzsche. You see the dates of his life on the board. Nietzsche is German. He was a brilliant student. He was appointed the chair of classical philology, and philology is a study of language, so he would have been a student of the classical languages, that would be Greek and Latin. And he was the chair of classical philology at a major European university, the University of Basel in Switzerland. He was appointed that chair when he was just 24 years old. He was a professor until his health failed. He had to retire in 1879, and he lived on a pension. It was a lonely life. Nietzsche never married. He would spend his summers in Switzerland and his winters in northern Italy, and he would usually live in boarding houses. He wrote extensively. He became insane in 1889. We're not exactly sure the cause of that, but he lived in mental institutions until his death in 1900. Nietzsche's philosophy is going to contain a critique of Western thought, an examination of Western thought, Western philosophy, Western religion, Western morality. Nietzsche is a very fine writer. He is considered one of the best writers in the philosophic tradition. And while I'm talking about that, the philosopher who is probably considered the best writer is Plato. Another fine writer was Schopenhauer. And Nietzsche is also considered an outstanding writer. Okay, we're going to begin with a famous claim of Nietzsche's. He made the claim, said this in one of his books, that God is dead. Now what he means by that, he's not taking a shot at anybody's religion or Christianity. He means something specific by that. What he means is, metaphysics is dead. Kant had shown that we can have no knowledge of any reality that lies beyond our senses. Now, we've seen philosophers like Hegel and Schopenhauer continue after Kant to offer metaphysical explanations. Hegel's Geist, Schopenhauer's Will, but Nietzsche is the first to grasp the significance of what Kant's ideas will mean for Western philosophy. And the metaphysical outlook is going to recede. Now, this is an outlook that had dominated Western philosophy for around 2,500 years. This is the belief that there is an unchanging reality beyond us, and the belief was that the task of philosophy was to provide guidance for a journey that would take us beyond our ordinary experience and toward this higher reality. Again, the old outlook, we would be led from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light, if you remember Plato's allegory. Nietzsche now makes the claim that this whole outlook is an illusion. And the Platonic view was brought into Christianity by St. Augustine. And we've talked about this before. St. Augustine told us there are two worlds. There is a higher reality and a lower reality. Our greatest task is to experience this higher reality, and to St. Augustine, that would be God. That's the purpose of life. That's the end of the journey. Nietzsche sees Christianity as losing its binding force in Western culture. But it has been the inspiration and basis of Western culture and morality So Nietzsche's claim that God is dead is a very serious claim. It is an event fraught with significance and danger. Nietzsche feared that pessimism, specifically the pessimism of Schopenhauer, and nihilism, which is a belief that there are no enduring values, that life is pointless, Nietzsche feared that these outlooks would become prevalent. He feared that Western culture would lose faith in itself, and people with little to live for would resign themselves to becoming passive consumers and lead lives of petty self-interest. But Nietzsche at the same time sees the possibility of replacing this old outlook with something healthier. And he believes philosophy can help here, that it can provide guidance and suggest a new orientation, and life can be made better for people in our culture. This is Nietzsche's hope, and Nietzsche is essentially a hopeful man. Well, if the Platonic Christian view is an illusion, what's the reality? What are the characteristics of reality? Nietzsche will answer that. Nietzsche says that everything in our world is an interrelation of energy and form. The energy that flows through all living things, he calls, and this is a famous expression of Nietzsche's, the energy that flows through all living things, he calls the will to power. This energy must take form or shape, and it does in all the different forms in our world. But I want to make the point here that Nietzsche's will to power is not a metaphysical force. It is not like Schopenhauer's will. It is a biological force. Found in living things, it is something internal. And Nietzsche's first book, it's called The Birth of Tragedy, examines how ancient Greek tragedy pictures the human world in terms of a dynamic interaction between form and energy. And he also gives an account of the rise of Platonic philosophy against the backdrop of Greek tragedy. Nietzsche claims that the earliest tragedians, Aeschylus, Sophocles, capture the core elements at the heart of human existence. Nietzsche says they get it right. But the problem is Platonic philosophy. Platonic philosophy will supplant their view with a vision of reality that Nietzsche says it's just an illusion. The ancient Greeks used gods instead of concepts. That's a mythological approach. Nietzsche says two gods are associated with tragedy. There is the god Apollo, who is associated with the arts. He reigns over the muses. He is especially connected with sculpture. That's melding matter into form. So Nietzsche associates Apollo with form. We said that Nietzsche believes reality is a dynamic interaction between form and energy. In ancient Greek tragedy, the god Apollo would be associated with form. The god Dionysus. And tragedies were performed, ancient Greek tragedies were performed in his honor. He was a vegetation god. He was killed and resurrected. He is associated with the rebirth of nature in the spring. He's also associated with intoxication, with dance, with ecstasy. Nietzsche says Dionysus represents the mysterious power that revives growth after the decadence of winter. Dionysus represents that primal energy that flows through everything. Tragedy, Nietzsche says, is a creative interaction of these two principles. Energy. And in a Greek tragedy, you have the chorus who will dance and sing. Nietzsche says they are associated with Dionysus. The individual actors who wear masks are associated with form. And so Greek tragedy is a celebration of the creative impulses and energies at work in the world. There is this interaction of energy and form that is an eternal creative process. Nietzsche sees much wisdom